What is going on, Sooner Nation? Thank you all for tuning into another live episode of the Barry and Mac Show. As always, myself, Barry, personal trainer, sports performance coach out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. And alongside me, former Sooner wide receiver, 2000 national champ, Mr. Damian Mackey. How are we doing today, D Mac?
What's going on, B? Are we live? Is this real? We're
We
live?
live, yeah, man.
Sweet. I like it. I got the lights out. It's dark. I like it. Feels good. Feels good.
Let's
Doing
go.
well. Excited about another game to play. I'm sure the team is excited about another game to play. Um, I'm cautiously optimistic that going into this week there'll be a different mental fortitude. There'll be a different temperament, a little bit more urgency. Um, I expect the guys to play better. So I don't know. Maybe 7.5 was a good, you know what I mean? That was
Yeah,
a good. That
yeah.
was a good. But we have the potential to be substantially better still. This week could tell us a lot.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting, man. Since our last episode when we did the post game pod, we've both had opportunities to dig into the film, and we'll talk a little bit more about things that we've seen as we've done that deeper dive. And if you guys want to check out the deeper dive over there on ouinsider.com, myself and DMAC have been lighting up the board with content. The users over there have been engaging. It's really cool stuff. DMAC has posted his 10 thoughts. He also had a little extra bonus thread that was like right after the game. And then over there, I'm doing basically a zooming in, and I'll do little previews over there on Twitter on X. If you don't follow us over there, DMac is D underscore Mac 13. Follow me at BWise Fitness, and then on Instagram it's at Dame That Dude. Follow me at BWise Fitness. So DMac, injury news. It looks like Garen Hatchett is out for a minute. OU at center. We'll see about Hickman, right? At wide receiver. Not a ton of news, it seems like, on Anderson, kind of still up in the air with that. We obviously know Farouk is going to continue to be out as well. And Andrell Anthony is still kind of picking up, and everybody knows the Jaden Gibson story. So let's talk about injuries real quick. OU is now 2 games in, right? They're 2-0, which is fantastic. However, the injuries have mounted a little bit, and the pups have been having to play a lot of extra snaps. Based on last week when we saw Reagan's, obviously we saw Petaway get a lot of burn. Is there a chance that during this week of practice, with how the performance went, that there's another young guy who is maybe on the come up who might spark something with the coaches? Or do you expect against Tulane that we'll see a lot of the same? Give us a little behind the curtain of what that looks like.
Well, I know there's a couple other guys in the fold, and so it'll be interesting to see on Saturday which of those guys had a good week. I was told that Petaway had a good week last week, which was why he was going to be, features is what was said, which is what was said, but we didn't see him featured at all. Um, but no, there are other options, and again, people who know have told me that there are guys right there on the cusp of getting into the rotation. So, be interesting. I think the first one we would say is Carry On, right? Again, a
Mm-hmm.
long, rangy guy who would give us some size on the outside. Again, it just makes too much sense. I get that he's a true freshman, but it just makes sense to me to bump Brennan into a slot. Imagine Brennan
Yeah.
and Burke, Burks on opposite slots and some high lowing second level defenders. I'm just telling you that's dangerous. If a guy like Carry On can get his feet under him, that would help. And then Zion, right? People are saying he's on the cusp. He's a puppy. He's got a lot to learn, right? We saw Tatum, who is getting some snaps bust on one of his assignments on a pass play or some. We don't even know what the play was because the quarterback got sacked so fast. So you have to give and take that. Now I'm gonna say something else.
Yeah.
I would expect, because Raggins played so much in that game against Houston, I would hope at least. Now I know my experience when I played as a freshman. The game was so fast against Indiana State. By the way, shout out to Bob. Bob had that. I think it's the 25th anniversary or something like that of the Indiana State game. I saw him post that on Twitter
Yeah.
this week, which was dope. That was my first game playing too. So Bob's first game was my first game. You know what I'm saying? Damn,
That's
25
cool.
years
Man.
out the gates. But I'd expect when I played Baylor my second game, getting some run, the game felt slower. And in Baylor game, I had some good catches. I made a couple guys miss. I was on, I got my first article. I got my first. So I say that to say, hopefully Raggins is a guy who says, hey, this field is still 100 yards. It's still 52 and a half or whatever the hell it is, the width of the field, right? Like I can go out here and
Mhm.
be me. And hopefully they scheme him up some stuff where he can get comfortable. I just think it makes too much sense to give him an end around at the beginning of the game. Let him feel the ball,
Yes.
run with speed, you know what I'm saying? Run in space and feel like, oh, this is just like high school. To me, that would have made a ton of sense. Burks doesn't need that. Burks is a guy who's going to be a volume receiver, especially until our other guys come back. So look for Kearney. Look for Carry On. I just don't know if they had a good week of practice and they actually merit the opportunity this week, but there are absolutely opportunities.
Yeah, there was a lot more good in that game. When I went back and kind of dialed in and watched a lot of things, I would say your first impression of the offensive line was probably right. So, but when you go back and check just the individual play, right? An individual play, I'm talking about Fabechi Nwewu, I'm talking about Logan Howland, Michael Tarkin, and I'm talking about Jacob Sexton. I will say this, 54, I think he's OU's most consistent offensive lineman in terms of pass blocking, run blocking. He's got the most nasty to him. Obviously, it would make sense for him in that role to take on more of a leadership element. So maybe you see that develop as the season progresses. I like what I saw from Logan Howland. He got a few snaps in there. He obviously has the size to play the position, but also
Yep.
looks like he's got the feet and the ability. But Tarkin was not bad. Also, there were a few plays in there where one of the things I expect OU to do against Tulane that I think they're going to have some success with is get Jackson out of the pocket. Like it sounds so simple, but his best throws, if you go back and watch the game, his best throws are rolling to his right. He's got some time. He's able to see the field. And if you remember, and I mentioned this in a video, that was really Baker's bread and butter. If people remember Baker's first year, he struggled at times just sitting in the pocket, hold the ball, 1, 2, 3, get it out. He wasn't great at that just yet. It took him a second. And they had more success when they'd roll him out. They had more success when they'd give him just some different options there, but get him on the perimeter, right? Jackson is not he's a bigger guy, right? But he's not some tall Sam Bradford, hold the ball for forever and take the big hit when releasing. He is a guy who is pretty athletic, who does have a really good arm, where I think that would bode well for him. And I think it would bode well if Hawkins, as we talked about, does get some run. We will see.
Hey, let me say something. Let me say something to
Go
that.
ahead.
You're speaking to some quick game principles and some quick boot principles. And again, I was obviously in town on Saturday. I had an opportunity to speak to some of my old teammates and some of the coaches. And I'm going to always say this because I don't want to lose my privileges. I am not an insider, so don't ask me for insider information. We do analyze the program, the team, and the games, though, right? The stuff is there. And having an opportunity to speak to Steph's like, I was like, bro, we got Leach principles. What's up? Like, run the easy, quick, clean reads. The corners the read, the outside backers the read, the safeties the read. It's a one guy read, and you got a triangle read, right? That's some of the basic fundamentals of the Leach principles. That stuff, it just seems to me that Jackson could kill when Jackson throws that screen, that receiver screen. We do the slip screen. Well, it's not even a slip screen. It's just a receiver screen. The receivers are out there. We're trying to get 3-on-2 or 2-on-1 and one
Mm-hmm.
blocks, and we throw it fast. He throws a seed. That ball
Yeah.
gets there, so that outside backer can't make it. Leach principles are not spread them all the way to the sideline. That's not Leach. Leach is get closer to the tackle so line can get into the play and the ball can get there sooner and the receiver can catch the ball sooner and we can get out of there. That's an easier throw. It's a shorter throw, right? It's a cleaner read. And so I could throw some triangle principles that Leach has that I spoke to my fullback. And the thing is, they're trying to make sure Jackson's comfortable. They're
Yeah.
trying to make sure Jackson has the stuff that he feels comfortable running. And at a certain point, it might be time to say, hey, we're gonna run the stuff that's gonna be simple for the offense to get into a flow. Because that's what we need. And you're right. I'm gonna just speak to this too quick. The people who were just killing the O line, like they're the people who beat a dead horse. We don't have the most athletic O line in the world. Now we got to play football. Like, okay, you know what I'm saying? So for you to continue to say they're not the 2018 O line, they're not going to be that line this year. They may mesh and get some, some cohesion and get better. But you watch that. I watched the game and I'm just like, people just like to be mad.
Yeah.
Right, I'm watching pass pro. There's a hat on a hat. I'm watching some of the running concepts. The running backs didn't have good vision Saturday, and guys, that's okay. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. That doesn't mean that we suck. But like running backs' jobs, the responsibility of running back when you have the ball is to run where people aren't, not to run into the pile. That's the gig, right? That's what you signed up for. That's why you got a Scully. And so the offensive line gives me a little bit of like, okay, maybe we can improve. Jackson Arnold, you're right. There was a lot of good in that game. He just happened to have um, bad plays at bad times.
Yeah.
And Dragons has some bad drops. If Raggins catches a couple of, he throws him a mid on the sideline, that's a first down. He
First
throws him
down.
one a little bit low on the hip, but it's 2 feet off the ground. It's just low. It's a low diamond catch. Raggins drops it, and the DB's being physical with him or whatever. But those are plays that save drives, that build momentum, that steal momentum from the opponent. That when we play Tulane, we just gotta hope the guys had a better week of practice and got that done. The beautiful thing is we got the dub. The dub is in the win column. If we go undefeated, and that was the shittiest game we played all year, no one will remember. Even if we played just good enough to beat Texas, even if we played just good enough to beat Tennessee, if that was Tennessee that we played last Saturday and the game ended the way it ended, no one would be pissed off. You see what I'm saying? So, like, as
Yeah.
long as we're good enough on a respective Saturday to beat the opponent in front of us, like, that's what it's about. Maybe we played down to Houston's abilities, but I'll tell you what. Truth Serum also says if we play like we played against Houston, against Tennessee, they gonna beat the living daylights out of us because they are a physical team, and their quarterback is
That he
going to win them games.
yeah,
Buddy's a dude, so
he can ball.
he can play ball.
Yeah. Yeah, man, to unpack the offensive line bit, even the play that you talked about, and when we discussed it and put video to it over on OU Insider, where Jackson could have planted that foot. He had a 2-on-2 out in front of him with the blockers at the sticks. Could have been a touchdown, right? Honestly, should have been. It really, when you, he'll be frustrated when he goes back and sees that on film, which he obviously already has. But even leading up to that, he's getting antsy and does not have great footwork in the pocket on that play.
Yeah,
So he has initially a really solid pocket. All he needs to do is slide to his right, and it's right there. It's small maneuvers, right? This is something that, to credit Riley a little bit, he was really good at coaching guys up on. He had some not inventive drills, right? At this point, nothing's really new,
hey,
right?
we ain't gonna big up Riley too much, bro. Let's yeah,
But
let's
it
move
was
past that.
solid. He had quarterbacks who can move in the pocket,
He
right?
did, he did, he did.
And Baker developed over the years. He just couldn't do a 5 and 7 step drop. He had to figure that out. But the Jackson has the tools, he has the arm, and the offensive line, I think, has enough juice. Again, I still want to see more of Taylor Tatum. I think, in my opinion, he is this year, and maybe it's 20 as well. He is this year's Tawi Walker, where it's like, are we going to be saying, where are the carries come game 6, game 7? His skill level with running with the football is just better than the other guys right now. And I think Franklin's kind of in that same vein. I do want to dive a little deeper into receiver before we go defense.
Sure.
So Burks, again, to me, and I said this leading into the year, he was going to be OU's best receiver. What he showed in the spring game, as well as the film he put out there prior to coming to OU, he is really good. He is going to get more than a cup of coffee on Sunday because he just has the skill and the precision and the deliberateness, and it seems like he works really hard to be good at it. If you had this lineup right now,
Good
right,
question.
where would you slot these guys at receiver going into this game? And that's taking injuries into account. How would you set this up? And for you, what kind of routes would you prioritize, or do you think guys are going to be better at as things get a little more hairy going into the SEC?
Phenomenal question, bro. I get to nerd out. This is gonna be fun. Here's what I would do, and it would have started Sunday. On Sunday, I would have cut the film on, and I would have said, Hester, how do you feel? This is exactly what I would have did. And by the way, I coach for a living, right? I'm in a different space, but I literally coach for a living. I would have said, Hester, how do you feel? And hopefully he felt shitty because I don't even think he had a ball go his way.
Mhm.
And I would have asked him, like, hey, bro, how do you feel about that? Like, do you feel like there should be an entire game where a ball doesn't go your way? Because we got a guy who's 5'10 having to play X because you can't catch the football. If I line you up this week and let you practice the fade, the back shoulder fade, the curl, the quick slant, if I throw you the ball, you're going to catch it. I just want to know, right? But this is Sunday film before we're not going to get on the field till Monday. Are you going to catch the ball? If he, I mean, I'm reading his response because everything changes. Anderson's out until further notice, and if it's not like we're going to get confirmation he's going to play Saturday, so we gotta. It's kind of like what Tomlin said about Russ. We got to go with the guys who we got, and you got to. By the way, Hester is legit 6'4". He's taller than
Yeah,
Anderson. I'm on the
yeah.
field Saturday, like, dope, buddy is big.
He's a big
We
guy.
need that body with Gibson down and Anderson on a bad wheel hip, whatever it is, because Brennan is not a plus at X. He's not. And so he's a minus at X. I don't want to say minus, that's kind of bad, but he's not a plus at X, right? But Hester is. DBs are 6', 6'1". He's got 3 inches. He's a grown ass man. He should be able to run a slant, a curl, a fade, and a back shoulder curl. He should be able to run those. And we should know on down and distance downs that we got that one-on-one matchup if the defense cheats, right? That's a cornerstone of offense. The first thing you want to do is the defense has to react to you, not the defense sets the table and you react to them. You don't want to do that. Brennan, guys are like, oh, we're just going to put our best corner on him one-on-one, or maybe even their number 2 corner because he's a little guy. We're going to run our stuff to take other people away, Burks away, right? Bauer away. So as Jones, I'm going to say, okay, we don't have Anderson yet. Okay, Gibson's down and Andrell is what he is. Hester, you're healthy, bro. Catch the freaking ball. I put Hester
Mhm.
at X. This is what I do in practice for the week, and then I'm going to gauge and see how, because we know what they're throwing out there now. They have enough reps to be able to do it if they need to do it mid-game. Does that make sense? You can throw Brennan
100%.
back at X and all that stuff, right? All right. Then I say, Brennan, you ready to score a touchdown? Brennan, are you ready to score a touchdown? What do you mean? Hey, man, I just want to let you know you're probably not going to get 60 snaps this game or 50 snaps this game, but we're going to put you 1v1 versus the backside backer. We're going to put you 1v1 versus the backside safety, kind of like you did last year. We're going to throw it up to you a couple times. Go beat him and catch a touchdown. That's my second conversation, right? My second conversation is I'm letting Brennan know I'm not demoting you, but I'm putting you in a better position to be successful, right? Burks my Z. Burks my utility Z. Our offense, the utility was the H. This offense, it's basically the Z. They're both offline, so they can both do it all day and twice on Sunday. And I'm telling Burks, be prepared, bro. We're gonna throw you the tunnel. We're gonna throw you the quick slant. We're gonna throw you the linebacker replace. We're gonna throw you the junk route, right? All those routes where junk routes are simply if they blitz, go where they aren't, expect the ball. All right. Bauer's fine at Y. I think Roberts earned a little more opportunities with how he played Saturday. You
Mhm.
want it to be a meritocracy. You want Bauer to know that, hey, dude, other dude doesn't look as good as you doing it, but he was effective doing it. He executed what he was supposed to do. Roberts is gonna get some run. And I think that four allows you to strategically put a Raggins in because you need to build that quality depth with these young pups. It allows you to put a Raggins in at Z sometimes, at an H sometimes, maybe the small Y sometimes. It allows you to put carry on, right? You got Hester giving them some cooking. Now you can sneak carry on there at the X. You don't lose size, but you got a younger guy, but that DB's already got cooked up a little bit, right? And then you can put Kearney in wherever they feel comfortable with him. In my humble opinion, having played at OU, coached receivers, trained receivers, and watched this thing consistently, to me, that makes more sense. And
Yeah.
on film, Tennessee says, huh, they actually do have a viable frontline receiver core that we got to prepare for. Because if they come out to Tennessee and they got Brennan at X, or they're hoping
Yeah.
Anderson's healthy and Hester is like still on the shelf and Anderson's not healthy, and then the backup plan is just to go with Brennan at X, it's going to be problematic. And the person who gets the most punishment at all that, Barry, it's Burks. Because with Brennan at X, the defense can just be like, and they're going to focus on him. They're going to shrink the
Yeah.
field on him. They're going to continue to have people spying, watching, and very close to him. You got to get Burks loose. You got to have other options to do that.
Interesting. Yeah, man. When I'm watching Brennan, the one thing, and it is good. There's things you could do with Burks. Have him in the slot to do different. He is because he is multi-talented and can be at different spots. That's why his value is higher. When it comes to the NFL stuff, you can put him in different places. He's a good route runner. With Brennan, there is just something missing when it comes to creating the separation and being able to easily win and clear space, and then also the run after catch is just not there with him. Whereas with Burks, he is one of the best that I've seen on honestly at OU in a while. Shepard was great at this, and what he does is, and you talked about that. I saw the board post over there. Is Burks is so good at catching the ball, getting his feet down, and his head turned. He's the best on the team, and
Well,
that's why.
we got to give Farouk some credit. Farouk is really good
Oh,
at it too. He's
Farouk is good at
injured.
it too.
Farouk has shown it since his freshman year that his yards after the catch are solid.
That is true. That is true. Yeah, let's give Farouk his due, but he's not out there right now.
That's correct.
I think Dion probably a little bit better. I just think he's a little more explosive. Let me
He
say
is.
that
He
he's a
is.
little more
He
explosive.
absolutely is. Absolutely
That
is.
and that makes the difference. I think Raggins, when you watch him, I think he has that juice in him. But if you watch some of those plays, there were multiple times where I think he just wanted to catch the ball, secure it, and get. There was no thought of like, let me make some hay with this, because there's one that he caught with three guys around him that if he just catches it, turns his head, and keeps his balance, he's out of the gate gone. So want to again hit running backs just real fast. Talk about how you think the carries should be doled out in this game against Tulane, where OU, Tulane's got an offense that's going to be formidable.
Yep.
They really push K-State. So OU is going to have to score. They're going to have to be able to sustain drives. And in your opinion, seeing who's played so far and how they've looked, for OU to be able to sustain the drives, to be able to pick up the fourth downs and third downs, to be able to get Jackson into those second and shorts, those third and shorts. Which running backs need to get the bulk of the carries, and how do you think those need to be doled out? And I'll kind of two-part this. Do you think there's anything schematically that they could do to immediately bring some success for themselves and kind of get maybe a workaround, so to speak, just to get their groove going?
Yeah. Distribution of carries. Honestly, Barry, first things first, Tatum needs to get more carries
Mm-hmm.
early. And I see how they do it. It's like, oh, you get a drive, but it seems like the first drive, and he usually gets a first quarter drive, but that drive is the first two games been a 3 and out, and so he hasn't had an opportunity to really get a feel for the game. I think they should probably give him a chance to just have carries. Like, neither running back has played well enough to justify just like, nope, he gets to get all the carries over and beyond you. Like, Barnes, it felt like in the second half, and I didn't feel like it actually was what happened. Barnes was the key back second half of the game against Houston. I think he was in pretty much all but two possessions in the second
Yeah.
half. Why not give Tatum an opportunity to see what it feels like to be the guy for a quarter versus a possession, right? Especially if we're going to be 3 and out, hiccups here, drops there, so on and so forth. Give him a chance to see if he's also a plus, because we don't know who our plus is at back. Sawchuk has traditionally done well, and as he got into a groove, he's a guy who, if you give him 10, 12, 15, 18, he gets better. So I don't think you just throw that away. You know how I feel about Barnes. Barnes is a guy, I don't hate him, but I just feel like he's just a guy at running back. He looks phenomenal, by the way. When he came by, I was like, God dang, but he's 6'1",
Yeah.
210, and cut, chiseled the whole nine. He's got a good body on him. I just think the natural talent and instinct is a little missing. But so I don't know that we totally go away from what they've been doing. I just think they should give Tatum an opportunity to get some valued carries, consecutively. You know what I'm saying? Maybe two possessions. And one of those two possessions they feature, right, some of those run ideas. Now, in terms of scheme, I feel like we just need to go to a very simple stretch zone, Some people call it an outside zone. The reason you call it a stretch zone is because you want it could still go up the A gap or the B gap, right? So a stretch zone is more like what the 49ers run, and we run it. We have it in our offense, and we've run it some. But I think we should run some stretch zone, get the defense running, and the running back who has some vision will see the natural gap. They'll see the linebacker who's overrun, or they'll see the backer who's gotten reached by the guard that's uncovered. That guard's climbing, and if you reach that backside backer, or if the play side backer overruns it, you stick your foot in the ground and you get upfield, and now you've got one man to beat, right? And so I think that's something we should attempt. It seems more like we're trying to do the midline, the veer kind of zone initially, which is kind of the RPO stuff that we run with that, where you're right up the either the tackle's ass or tackle guard gap,
Yeah.
right? And then you're kind of bouncing, and that's why it
Mhm.
looks like there's nothing there, because the play is designed to go right up the center's outside leg or the center guard gap, and then you bounce, and our running backs just have a hard time staying eyes up and bouncing to that next gap.
Which
This will get
Houston did really well,
Oh,
by the way.
the little guy in Houston was
Yes.
killing it.
When you got into the
Yeah,
film,
yeah,
I
yeah,
showed a
yeah, yeah.
play of there.
Oh yeah.
He was great at it. He
When
was
I
great
watched
at
the
it.
game, I was like, they're running the same stuff. The
Yeah.
difference is their running back, who was less talented, is actually pressing the play better than our running backs, who are just shoulders forward, lumbering forward. So I think a natural adjustment is just to run stretch zone. That way, the running back's shoulders are now. People don't like it because if you get a run through, it's a 4-yard loss. So our line have to hold up. That'll really
Mhm.
let us know if we're holding up in run game. But the
Interesting.
running back has it's like four holes. You get the ball and you check a gap, you check the backer. If the backer's flying out of there, you kind of press, you kind of slow up a little bit to see if there's a natural blocking lane for your guard to go up to him, and then you're peeking at the backside backer, because if the backside guard reaches him, the hole is there. And if it's not, you just keep checking, and you just wait for somebody to have bad gap integrity, and when they have bad gap integrity, you go where they aren't, right? And I think that's a different read for our running backs that will allow them to be more effective. And we've seen Sawchuk do it. Sawchuk's done it. Last 2 years, he's done it, and he's
Yeah.
done a good job doing so.
So let's talk a little defense, and I'm going to open this with saying, do you know who the highest graded safety is in the country so far? Of course, it's PFF, so some of it take with a grain of salt in a small sample size, but the numbers are still the numbers. Highest graded safety in the country right now, DMAC, is
Well, I know it's not RSJ because he had the bust.
RSJ.
Is it really? By the way, it was
RSJ.
RSJ's the bust on the touchdown. I went back
On the
and watched that.
touchdown, yeah.
I'm like, who was it? It was RSJ.
Yeah.
So I thought the
Highest
bust.
graded.
By the way, I'm just gonna pat myself on the back again. I'm not surprised. Dude's a ball player. We've been saying it for 3 years now. I'm at the same Texas game, if you remember, our
Yeah.
first year. It's RSJ, it's Kip Lewis, and we're like, we got our asses kicked, but those two puppies came in and you saw something, right? And 3 years later, or two football seasons later, both of them have matured into, I'd just say, important parts of the defense. RSJ, man, he just made a couple of really good plays on Saturday,
Good
and
plays.
he looked good against Temple too.
Mhm.
I hoped it was him. That's why I said that it wasn't him, because
Yeah,
the
yeah.
bust was him though. The bust, I went back and watched. They're trying to show three high safeties. One's really robbing. He's supposed to get to the other hash, and he's kind of reading the
Mm,
number two. Yeah.
interesting. So I say that to say Temple, or not Temple, Tulane this week, and I want to make sure I get Buddy's name right. Darian Mensah, the quarterback
Yep.
for
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Tulane, freshman DMAC, 6'3", 200 pounds. And his opener, they really didn't need it quite so much. He goes 10 for 12, 205 yards, efficient, 2 touchdowns, no picks. He had a long of 68, a 281 QB rating, so pretty solid. And then against
Yes.
K-State, man, he goes 19 for 29, 342 against a team who OU knows all too well about K-State. They're a team that can play some defense pretty much every year. They're disciplined. They're not the greatest athletes, but they are a disciplined ball club, and they just know what to do, right? They got kind of Snyder 2.0, if you will. The program feels very similar, right? He's batting about a 70% completion percentage, their quarterback is. He can throw the quick stuff. He can get outside the pocket. His long ball is okay. It floats a little bit sometimes. So interceptions may be, Peyton Bowen back there, Billy Bowman, guys like that. You might be a deal where maybe you're fielding some punts, if you will, on some of these deep balls. And I think they're going to try and test OU in that regard. I think they're going to see what they can do, if they can hold up in coverage. Nobody's really pressed OU that way in these first two games, not consistently. Houston did it a little bit, but not consistently. I'm curious. I think Tulane will try, but if you were Oklahoma, knowing what you've shown on film so far defensively, how would you, and I'm going to kind of reframe this, just make fun, how would you approach this game and assume Tulane is going to try and attack you, right? When you're self-scouting, as the Sooners, when Venables and Alley are self-scouting that defense, and they're saying, well, what is it about us that teams are going to try to exploit? What are some of those things that you see, and how do you think OU puts the quick fix on that going into this game against Tulane, where they may have to win by scoring some points?
So number one is I do a lot of 3x1 trips to one side, and I try to isolate. Um, I'd say more so 5 than 4, but I'd show it all game because I know OU is going to rotate corners because they've shown the first 2 games, and they've shown over the course of years, the first 3 or 4 games, they rotate a ton. So if I'm the OC on Tulane, I'm running some 3x1 stuff, and I'd run some 2x2 because I could just run double post. There's certain things I can do to scheme a one-on-one matchup on that outside, and I'd wait for when five's in the game, and I'd run some double post concepts. I'd run some pump and go concepts, or I just go 3x1 and let him cook backside. All right, that's one thing I would be taking advantage of. Number two is I'd squeeze the ball. It was very clear. I bet you could feel it on film. Just the number of possessions, you could feel that OU was like, oh my God, we're not doing as well as we're supposed to. And if you remember Tulane, I guess that was Lynx last year when they came to
I was
Norman.
at that game.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, it was freaking hot as hell. Um, they play keep away. They play
Mm-hmm.
keep away, and if we are unable to score, which is not them kind of preparing for us, but it helps them understand how to call the game on their side of the ball. They have a great running back. They have a good running back. He's not great. They've got a guy who I think he's a cup of coffee guy in the NFL. He knows how to go where you aren't, and he's going to break arm tackles. And so, I'd keep him on the edges. All right. I would want to make our backers run sideline to sideline. I know people are like, that's crazy, Mackie. Kip can run, Stunts can run, so on and so forth. Yeah, but we also miss our gap integrity. If when put in position for us to have gap integrity, a lot of times we have shown that we miss that. And I don't think you want to run straight out our D tackles. I think that's probably one of the strengths of our defense right now. Jaden Jackson is an ass kicker. Dominic Williams is also an ass kicker, and Grayson Halton is also an ass kicker. And by the way, Terry is not far behind those guys, and he's a
Mm-hmm.
grown man. So that group right there is a group that I would say, okay, that's probably where OU strength lies on the first level of defense. Let's put these ends right in some pressure situation. Let's put the cheetah. They've got an undersized backer, right? Let's see how he holds up, right, over the course of a game, and then action off of it, right? So that would be my game plan. I'd go 3x1 as much as I could. And if I was in 2x2, I'd do some double posts or just double of the same route concepts. You can do a seam route with a go route. That's going to isolate. You can do a double post concept. That's going to isolate. You can do a corner route from the number 2 with the go route from number 1. That's an isolate concept, right? I'd put those in play, and I'd be chomping at the bit. I'd tell my receiver and my Q like, hey man, they're going to rotate 5 in, and when they do, let's go get them. That like, we're gonna, we're
100%.
gonna we're gonna take that throw when 5's in. If you got it with 4, take it. But when 5's in, let's go ahead and see what he's got, because he's gonna give us a PI. He could potentially give us up some money, right? And then the other thing is I'd do is I'd go tackle to tackle, and then I'd action off of it. I'd boot off of it. I'd play action off of it, looking for the tight end on the action pass. I'd boot and roll. I'd boot and roll my quarterback on the opposite edge and see if the opposite end is staying at home, or if he's going to give me the edge, let my quarterback run the ball a little bit. That would be how I attacked us. And I'd tell my quarterback, if it ain't there, don't throw it. We don't want to give their offense extra possessions.
Yeah, I think OU's the real chance of at least pulling away to any extent in this game. I think they're going to have to completely shut down Tulane's run game because some of the past stuff from what we've seen with the backers, it is still a little bit of an issue of them being able to get out there fast enough and get into coverage. They're still everybody really, other than Stutz. Stutz plays it really well, and he still has a few misses. But they're a step late getting out there in
Barry,
coverage.
let me ask you a question.
Carter,
I got to ask you a
go
question. I
ahead.
got to ask you a question. Do you know what the quarterback's completion percentage was at Houston last week?
It was pretty high.
What do you think it was?
Was it 78? Was
It was
78%?
over
It was
80%
over 80%.
on
Yeah.
27 throws.
Yeah.
You
Can't,
know what I mean?
yeah.
Like,
And they were not all behind the line of scrimmage throws.
no, it was a lot of
They were
action.
a
Second
lot of
level
action.
throws. A lot of second level throws off action. 100%. Anyway, I'm
And
sorry.
then
I
yeah,
just
no,
want to
you're
put that
good.
out there.
And they were easy completions. They weren't. There was a few where he threaded the needle, but there was one. The one I think it's closing out the half. That's going. They're going from right to left, and I think it gets through another guy's hands for the Sooners, and he comes down with it and takes about 3 or 4 guys to bring him down. But that being said, that they're going to try and make 5 work. I believe this is the game where OU kind of finds out what that rotation needs to be at corner, and they dial that in going forward because it's very possible that he gets played off the field to some extent because Tulane is they're gonna try and run right at them, but they are most definitely going to be throwing the ball, and they're going to try and pick on where they feel OU is the weakest, and I think in that respect, OU can be had out there at corner. And then also kind of the same deal. You're making those backers have to work. You're making them have to think. I'm curious to see if OU again, like does Kip and Danny, did they just play this whole game? Right. You did see Seven get a little bit of action against Houston as well. That was kind of
By
interesting,
the
but
way, he got a key. That was a key possession. I'm like, whoa, they got
Mhm.
Kenny Can, and like this is the one. If they kick the field goal, they take the lead. 11 to get some run. 11 will definitely play for sure because they're going to be running the football.
Yes. Well, and so I was going to get to that. I think this is a game where maybe you do play with Danny's ability to at least read and react, I think, better than some of the other guys, at least in pass coverage. Is this a game where maybe, Kobe plays Mike and you put Stutz at will
He
for a
will.
good chunk of the game?
He will.
Um, because McKenzie was canceling a lot of things. His reaction time, when you really boil it down, and I think you touched on it a little bit, when you go and watch, he reads the guard as fast or faster than anybody on the team. And he is so quick to trigger, and he's not necessarily slow getting out there on the outside, man. I'm still trying to figure out after the rewatch what's going on with Stutz and the tackling. That there were about 2 or 3 plays where it's like, what are you doing,
I
man?
told you. I didn't understand it.
Yeah, it didn't make sense. I thought something was wrong with his little elbow brace. I almost thought it like pinched him or something. Like he got a little owie in the middle of the play, and I'm like, what is going on? Because he kind of grabbed at it for a second. Just I'm reading way too much into it. Like with the
He
other day,
said it out.
ow. Um,
That would be
but
hilarious if I
hey,
heard a
the
guy say
side
that.
note, did you see everybody tripping out on Joe Burrow picking up the cup, and they were like, "What's
Oh
wrong with
yeah.
Joe's wrist?" Oh man, that's what you get when you got high def cameras everywhere on the sideline. So I'm going to kind of flip this over to the defense. What I asked with you about receiver on the defensive line, based on how the ends have played and based on how the tackles have played, what would your starting group, you're just going 4 down right here, what would your starting group be game 3 going out there against Tulane? Has Grayson earned a job to be out there, starting with that unit? Is it still like Dominic and Jaden? Is it still like the who at edge has really taken off, which it doesn't seem like, and I'll touch on this just before I pass it over. OU at defensive end has still got to figure some things out. You have guys who haven't quite gotten there. Downs, the one thing I've noticed with Downs, man, is he just has not. He's really good in the run,
Hmm.
and he is. If the sack is there to be had, where he just maybe it's one of those things where he gets a free run, he can get there. and wreak havoc. He is quick to trigger, and he's strong. He moves better than he did, but he just does not have this deep bag of move, counter move. And that, to me, him being a guy who's now a veteran stalwart player, you should have a few more of those things in the arsenal, even if you're not, super elite, right? But when you watch a Caden Woolard, Caden may not be getting as much snaps, and he may not play the run and be as sound or as strong in some cases, not in all cases, as Downs is. But there are certain things he does in the pass rush side where it's obvious he's got a little bit deeper bag, and has nothing to do with length, man. That's just work. That is skill work, and being able to just do your technique and follow through and read, adjust, react, and do those things. What would your lineup be, 4 down right now going into Tulane?
Well, with all due respect to a four down, you always play eight. The goal is to have eight ready to play. And so I think the four defensive tackles have solidified themselves. They all four play well. I think Jaden and Dominic have earned the opportunity to continue to be the first guys out. Remember, I told you, like, that's an important thing. It was important for me and Josh Norman, like, who was going to go out that first possession, even though we
Mhm.
were both going to play 50% of the game, right? So I think you stay status quo at tackle. At end, I haven't seen anybody separate themselves. I haven't seen one end. In Temple, there were some plays where guys were just ass kicking, but it was just such a bad get. The quarterback was terrible. Like he was
Yeah.
scared of his own shadow. It looked like, so you really couldn't tell. I think you keep it as is with the ends. I think you scheme up. They did it. They did it a play. They schemed up a play where they went. Everybody slanted in a gap. And so the end is crossing the face of the tackle. The tackle's thinking they have to jump out, and the end is coming. And then the alley defender is playing force, and we got killed on it. We got killed on it. So um, you're right, though. I mean, we both said it all for since last year. The end position is Downs your best guy, because if he is, you don't have a really, again, football. You talk about pluses. Downs is a guy you can play winning football with, right? But pluses are guys who just make plays 1v1. Okay, and I think my that is my argument about the offensive line. We don't have a lot of plus offensive linemen where they're just going to kick ass. Now you're right, 54 right guard played damn good, played
Yeah.
damn good. But back to the D line or D ends, bro. It's. I'd like to see McCullough healthy, go into a 30 front. He's the fourth guy in a 2 point, right? He can buzz the flats, come off the edge, beat people with speed. I think RMT is doing some of the 2 point when they're in the 30 front. So I'm
Mhm.
gonna watch
Yep.
that closer. Being at the game, it's harder to see it than if I see it on TV. So I'm gonna pay closer attention Saturday, because they ran 30 front quite a lot more than
Quite
or
a bit.
three down with a 2 point more than I thought they might. So it'll be interesting to see. I don't really have a good answer in the end except to keep it as such, because none of those guys are doing something just dramatically better than the others. Um, 30s out there trying but not making it. 32s out there looking close as usual. 40s out there, 90s out there, right? So we just got to see who's going to make a play. I'd like to see PJ get a chance. Again, you don't shelf these guys. You give them a possession per quarter, or every third possession they get to play one of the end spots. Hey man, I'm gonna get ready. I got to get you ready, so I got to coach you up on both sides. When you're in, do this, and then have your change up. But the guy's got to get a chance to develop, and I know he's going to develop in practice and in the weight room and film study and all that. But I think it's healthy for him to get a few plays. And I'll say this last thing: the reason you don't see offensive linemen getting beat easily by our defensive ends is because they don't have a move that the offensive line has to say, I have to overcompensate for this move, right? You can't have a changeup unless you have a
Mm,
move. So if you don't have
yeah.
a move that can beat them, whether it's beat them with speed, beat them with power, right? You have a lot of wiggle to you and you can beat half a shoulder. If you don't have that, then they don't have to overcompensate pre-snap for that. They can just play true, and then it's going to be a true matchup every snap. So we need an end who will develop that ability. I'm not hating, but like, that's coaching. We have enough guys with different skill sets where a coach should say, "Hey, let me." Coach Spurrier would say, "Hey, Mackey, your skill set is quickness, short area quickness. Beat half a man, replace. Jay Norm, your skill set is your girth, right? Your strength. get to one shoulder and just big boy him. We had the same coach was teaching the same position how to win in their role successfully in totally different ways. I don't know that I
Mm,
see when this end is in the game, he has a different game plan from when this end is in the game. But PJ's, 6'4", 235, and should be having a lot of speed techniques and beat you, right? Beat a
yeah.
shoulder tech, beat a hand technique versus Downs, who's a more girthy guy, or Woolard, right? A big, long guy. Hey, I just want to get to half of you and really shorten the corner. I don't really see a distinct difference, and that's a concern. And
Yeah.
that's also just telling the truth.
Yeah, man. No, the most frustrating part with watching PJ is with his length and his explosiveness at this stage in the game, he should be able to beat 75% of who he lines up against with his first step, or at least make him respect that first step. And right now, guys don't respect his first step. He's still choppy with it.
Yep.
Like he does a lot of, and this is getting little detailed, but he does a lot of chop steps. It's not an explosive out the gate cover ground, because that's what the best DNs do. You watch the best guys, what they do is that first step, it's not some big stride, but it is a controlled explosiveness, especially if the game is let's rush the passer, it's third down. You make that tackle have to open up as fast as he can. And then it's like what you're talking about. If that tackle feels that he's got to really be on the lookout to open up and get out there quick, now you've got him shifting his weight to the left or to the right. And then
Yep.
that's when you bust that inside move. And that's when you get choppy with your steps. You don't get choppy at the very beginning unless you're stunting or running. No, you did. They stunted a little more in the interior against Houston. It felt like then the ends really got involved. But it bugs me, man, that PJ doesn't have that, because he should be able to line up and just get that done every play, right? Texas is able to get a guy, LSU is able to have a guy, right? That to me is just something that you want to see. So let's handicap this thing for this weekend. OU's playing at home, 2:30 game, so it's going to be a little bit hotter than it's been. The heat slightly more of a factor, but it still should be nice. How do you see this thing going? I'll give my score first. I think the offense, just by nature of how the game is going to be played, looks a little bit better. I think Sooner fans are going to come out of this game maybe with a few more questions about the defense, less about the offense. I feel like some stuff will be answered, and then they'll be saying now, like, hey, what's going on the back, or why can't we cover, the pass, or whatever the case may be. So I'm going to go almost similar to the K-State game. I'm going to go 38-24 Oklahoma in this one. So that should cut. I think the spread was 13 and a half, but it's dropped a little bit. I think it
It's like
opened at 13.
I want to say
So
it's nine
the
and a half. I want to say 9.5, bro.
9.5. Okay.
Let me check right now. While I check that, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna I have too many questions, to be honest with you. For right now, I have a lot of questions. And
Interesting.
so the spread is 13 and a half.
13 and a
I
half.
don't
Okay.
that's an article that could be, it may have changed a little bit. Um yeah, so that covers. I just I don't, here's my problem with us the last, since Levy, and I gotta see Seth has to get away from this. It seems to, and Link kind of got into it too. It seems to me if like our plan A isn't working, we press
Mm,
versus pivot and have, and they have other plans. You can see they try to do things later in the game. But I've seen us have too many games where because we didn't get off to a fast start, we just struggle in the entire game. It feels like the offense is working their asses off just to get a little something going, right? And I think that's why Lebby had to try to dial up stuff to just have a play to kind of change momentum. And I'm just starting to see this year, like I felt that at Houston again, and Lebby's no
mhm.
longer here. So my hope is this scheme for the week, and obviously the personnel for the week is appropriate, and guys are healthy and can do what they need to do, and we get off to a fast start. My Mine tells me I don't know if that's going to happen. Tulane has players. They're in Louisiana, and they've got some skill guys, and they've got some rush guys, and they've got a backer that'll form your ass up in the hole. So I think we win ugly again. Like my heart says, man, I want us to win by 17. My mind tells me like I think this is another game because we are still figuring out who we are, from the quarterback to the OC to the offensive guys because of the injuries. Defensively, they're gonna have to hold up. They're gonna have to show us that we can lean on and win because of our defense. And I do think we have an opportunistic squad who will make a play when it's needed. With
Mhm.
a young quarterback, I feel like he'll give us the ball a few times, either fumble or interception. I don't know the score, but Barry, it could be, dude, the score, it could be 17-13. Like, I just don't trust that our offense is going to have enough continuity to consistently score.
Yeah.
And I feel like our defense is good enough to not just let things get out of hand, and we will play conservative again to not lose the game. So I'm just going to say, my heart says we win by 17. My mind tells me we're probably going to win by 6 to 8 points.
Yeah, I think anywhere between, yeah, probably six to couple touchdowns. I think couple touchdowns is probably max for a game like this. I just don't see OU just having the capability yet to pull away. You did discuss it real quick. Do you think, now that we're later in the week, do you think Hawkins gets any run in this? Do you think they special package anything for him? I feel likely yes. What are your thoughts on it?
I posted on the board. Do I hope? Hell yes,
Yeah.
75%. Do I think? Hell no. Because, well, you know what? Let me take that back. I think they should give Hawkins a Taylor Tatum type of deal. They need to, or
Hmm.
right, they need to say, hey, first half, we're going to give you a possession. We guess what? They did it for Jackson last year. So Jackson
Yeah.
shouldn't have an issue with there being a possession or two per game where Hawkins is in there when the bullets are still flying, giving him a chance. He also needs to know like you're not cutting the mustard, or you can't cut mustard. You're not spreading the mustard. I don't know. I just made that shit up, but you know what I'm saying? You're not hitting the mark, brother. Like
You're not
you're
cutting the
not it.
cheese,
There
man.
it is. You're not it right now. You're not it. So
That's
because
funny,
you're
man.
not it, cutting the cheese, you're not it. So I think that when nepotism is in play and you just get it because whatever, like that hurts you. The
Yeah.
same way, nine falls down in the second quarter. By the way, Houston should have scored a touchdown. Nine falls down. I'm talking about on defense.
Oh yeah.
You don't see him
Yeah.
the rest of the night. So
No.
clearly, and I don't know that he's injured or whatever, but I just know that he had a consequence because he fell down and the quarterback throws the ball out of bounds versus putting it on the guy and he's lollygagging into the end zone. That needs to happen to the quarterback. If the quarterback was having some primary issues, you don't get to be the favorite because you're the quarterback. And I'm not saying bench him or 50-50 split, but like I think it's fair for Hawk to get a chance to get a possession, a half, and you scheme it into the week on Tuesday, or you start scheming it Sunday, and then you start practicing it Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and he knows going into the game that he's going to have a possession or two once the bullets start flying. So
Man,
I hope so.
man, good stuff. Not a whole lot of big games. I'm just kind of looking at the big board here for this weekend. You do got K State, Arizona. That'll be Arizona has not looked as good as I expected them to look based on last year, but they lost a good bit
Yeah,
after that bowl game. So maybe that's kind of the tell. You got Alabama, Wisconsin. So that'll be interesting, right? Kind of a clash of styles because Alabama
yeah,
their offense has definitely changed things up. That game against what was it, South Florida, this past weekend, man, they had a similar game to OU in Houston. They were just
100%.
able to pull away and explode at the end of the game. DeBoer was able to, I think it was the final 11:30 or whatever. They were able to get that offense clicking. You've got LSU, South Carolina, SEC matchup starting
It's gonna
there.
be a game. That's gonna be a fun game.
That'll be a fun game.
South Carolina's not bad.
Is there any team that you have seen so far, and we'll end it with this, that still look, and you know what? I don't want to say let's take Georgia out of the. No, we'll keep them in there. Is there a team that you've seen thus far who feels like they're championship ready? They got the pedigree. They got the look of a 19 LSU, a 2000 Sooners, right? A 2003 or four LSU. You like, is there any team that you see right now that feels like they've got the look to go out there and win in the 12-team playoff?
Aside from Georgia, no.
Mm,
And people are gonna say Texas. People are gonna say Texas. Ask me after we play them.
yeah,
Ask me after we play them.
yeah, yeah.
Texas.
Oh, yeah,
Well, listen. No, I was just gonna say Tennessee looks pretty stinking good. Tennessee is
they
better
do.
than I anticipated. They're good. Their quarterback is like really good, and he's a big, strong guy, so he can see everything. And Josh knows how to. Josh knows how to tell you where to put it, so he knows where to put it. The SEC is tough. Ohio State is beatable, but I just think the Big Ten is like a bunch of really good teams. No real great teams, so they'll
Yeah.
probably be the tallest midget in the Big Ten. Um, Here's what I want to say. Since you asked the question, more and more, and people used to get on my ass about this 3 4 years ago, and I'm just telling you, like, the NFL has been quarterback driven for about a decade and a half now, right? 15 years. Peyton Manning, Tom Brady kind of just took it over the top of, like, the quarterback can just literally make a 10 14 point difference in a game. And now you got Patrick Mahomes, who's right. He's the reason the Chiefs go. Without him, that's a mediocre team. I wouldn't say that, but he takes them over the top. College is more so just changing to that. You see Nebraska last year versus Nebraska this year, right? You see Michigan last year versus Michigan this year, right? Like, you look at these teams and it's the quarterback position. Like, if you valued a team and what players have the most impact, the college game is now a game where the quarterback is probably 3x any other position. Where 20 years ago, Adrian Peterson was probably the most valuable player
Mm,
on OU's offense, right? There were seasons of the like Ryan Broyles years where offenses were so far ahead of defenses. If you had a receiver like a Ryan Broyles 10, 12, 14 years ago, where he just knew how to get to the spot. And I mean, Ryan Broyles was the best player in our offense 12 years ago, bar none. The quarterback has to be the guy now, the way the game is played. And so when you ask me that question, yeah, you got to have sound defense, you got to have guys, skill guys, and all that. But like, the quarterback is the heaviest weight, right? That is the curve, if you will. And so you're going to see the teams that have the quarterback who can get it done, and obviously have the pieces around them to support outside of that.
man, DMAC, wonderful stuff as always, guys. Thank everybody for hopping on today, man. We're going to do these live streams. The plan is, and we're going to do, they're going to be a little bit later in the week. We'll still do our recorded, produced show, but what we like doing the live stuff, we're going to post it over there on OU Insider. So if you're not a member of the board over there, we're going to let you know when the live streams are coming over there, and then later on we'll get on Twitter and we'll post it on that. But me and DMAC, after this game and before, we're going to be on OU Insider posting our thoughts, talking with everybody on the board. And there's a lot of folks on there who really know some football, who have some good opinions, as well as the folks who are just,
Dumbasses.
fire and brimstone. They're ready to fire everybody. Just drive to drive, it'll change. So Brandon and Parker do an awesome job over there. Just good people to be around, just good people to work with. DMAC, closing thoughts for today as we go into this weekend. OU playing Tulane, 2:30 kick in the sun. But what are your closing thoughts today, man?
Clean it up. We gotta this week matters. We talked about this all fall camp. This week matters, and so looking forward to seeing the guys improve. Physicality on defense, we got to take it up a level. They're physical. Take it up
Yeah,
another level. On offense, again, you can't have a 5'9", 160-pound Z and a 5'10", 175-pound X. That's just a difficult ask of an offense with a quarterback who's looking for some simple reads, pre-snap. You got a 6'4" dude out there in the corners, 5'11". You got a hitch route. Your 6'4" dude just knows to box him out, right? Again, that slant. Your 6'4" dude knows to just get him on the upfield shoulder and just get his face across. Like, that feels a lot better than you got two guys my size or smaller than me. I was a 5'11", 192-pound sophomore. I think Brennan's smaller than I was as a sophomore.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so just clean that stuff up. Coaches plan out a really good week. Guys, when opportunity come, makes the play, or make the play when the opportunities come. And I expect us to ascend. to get to the point where we're going to be in a position to beat Tennessee. And so in order to do that, we've got to get better this week.
Fantastic stuff. Well, I want to remind everybody, go leave a rating and review. Make sure to comment, subscribe, follow the channel. We're growing. Feels like each week we get brand new feedback, brand new viewers. Again, met a bunch of cool people at the game who've been watching the show, who are members over on OU Insider or have seen us in other capacity. So let's make this show the best show out there. But we're not coming out here to be second. Right. Well, we're coming here to win and have a little bit of fun doing it. So Sooner Nation, want to thank you all for tuning in today. As always, we will see you soon.